Hey guys, our learning target for this video is to be able to convert numbers between fractions, decimals, and percent. So that's what I'm going to show you today. So we're going to start with turning fractions into decimals. So every time you have a fraction, you need to turn it to a decimal. All you're going to do is divide the numerator by the denominator. So we're going to put the top dog in the house. So we're going to divide 5 by 20. Since 20 won't go into 5, we add a decimal and a 0, bring that decimal straight up, and then you think, okay, well, how many times will 20 go into 50? Well, twice, because 2 times 20 is 40. We subtract and get 10, and then we're going to add a 0, bring it down, and 20 will go into 100 5 times. So 5/20 is the same as 0.25. Now, of course, we could have simplified 5 over 20. We could divide 5 and 20 by 5, and this is the same thing as 1/4. All righty. All right, so then the next one, 3/5. So top dog in the house. We put 3 in the box, 5 outside the box. 5 won't go into 3, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. Bring that decimal straight up. So 5 will go into 36 times. Evenly, no remainder. So 3/5 is equal to 0.6. Now, sometimes you'll have a number that doesn't terminate. So for example, what if I had the fraction 1/3? I'm going to put, to convert it to a decimal, I'm going to put 1 inside the box, 3 outside the box. 3 won't go into 1, so I add a decimal and a 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. When I subtract, I'm going to always get a remainder of 1. So that's going to keep going on and on forever. So I would say that 1/3 is equal to about 0.33, or I could say it's about 0.3 repeating, okay? Now, sometimes you'll have to go to about 3 places past the decimal for it to eventually end. So for example, let's say I have 3/8. So I'm going to put 3 in the box, 8 outside the box. 8 won't go into 3, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. 8 won't go into 3, but 8 will go into 30 3 times. So 3 times 8 is 24. I'm going to subtract and get a remainder of 6. 8 will go into 60, 7 times? 7 times 8 is 56. I subtract and get a 4. I'm going to bring down one more 0, and 8 goes into 45 times, and there's no remainder. So 3/8 is equal to 0.375. So go about 3 places past the decimal before you decide that your decimal is not going to terminate. Okay, guys? All right, so when we're going to fractions to percents, we're going to first turn that fraction into a decimal, and then we're going to multiply by 100. In other words, we're going to move our decimal 2 places to the right once we're done. For example, first step is turn your fraction into a decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator. All right, 15 won't go into 2, so I add a decimal and then a 0. 15 will go into 21 times. 1 times 15 is 15 with a remainder of 5. Bring that decimal down. 15 will go into 53 times. 3 times 15 is 45. So I'm going to get a remainder of 5 each time. Bring that down. I'm going to keep getting a 3 up here because 3 times 5 is 45. I'll always get that remainder of 5. So 2/15 is equal to about 0.13333. So now to turn our decimal to a percent, we multiply by 100. In other words, we move our decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, my pen doesn't like that. 1, 2. So my percent would be about 13.3%. Okay, 13.3%. All right, let's look at 21 over 25. I'm going to put 21 in the box, 25 outside the box. 25 won't go into 21, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. So how many times will 25 go into about 210? That'd be about 8 times, because 8 quarters equals $2, right? I'm going to subtract and get a remainder of 10. Bring down a 0. 25 will go into 100 4 times, because 4 quarters is $1. All right, so my decimal is 0.84. I'm going to move that decimal 2 places to the right, 1, 2, and my percent is 84%. All right. Moving on. Next, we're going to turn decimals into fractions. So the first thing we need to know is the places of those numbers to the right of the decimal. So if I had a number here, it would be in the tenths place. So I would say this number 1/10. If I had a number here, the 2 is in the hundredths place. So I would say this number 12/100ths. If I had a number here, this would be the thousandths place. So I would say this number 124 thousandths. If I have a number here, it's in the 10,000ths place. So I would say this number 1,243 10,000ths. Do you notice how I'm saying that? I say this as a regular number, just like if it were sitting in front of the decimal, 1,243, but the last words out of my mouth is the place value of the last digit. So this is 1,243 10,000ths. What if I had a number here? How would I say this number? Well, if it were sitting in front of the decimal, I would say 12,435, right? Well, I'm still going to say 12,435, except the very last thing I have to say is the place of this 5. So this number is 12,435 hundred thousandths. All right. So knowing those place values are very important when you're turning decimals into fractions. So for example, that 3 is in the hundredths place, right? So I would say this number 63 hundredths. Well, when you say the number correctly, that's exactly what the fraction looks like. This is 63 hundredths. That's it. Now I can't simplify this. I can't divide 63 and 100 by the same number, so I'm done. That's the answer. All right, what place is this 7 in? It's in the tenths. So how do I say this number? I say 7/10. Well, that's exactly what my fraction looks like. However you say it is what it looks like, 7/10. All right, what about this one? You would say this number 25 hundredths. I'm going to write 25 over 100. And now you always need to look at your number and say, can I simplify 25 and 100? Yes, I can divide both of those numbers by 25. I can divide 25 by 25 and 100 by 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 120 divided by 25 is 4. So this fraction, 25 100ths, simplifies to 1/4. All right, what if I have a whole number in front of my decimal? Well, that's okay. You keep it a whole number. All right, then all I have to worry about is putting the rest of this as a fraction. Well, how do I say this part right here? I say 34 thousandths, right? Because the 4 is in the thousandths place. So I'm going to write 34 thousandths. Well, both of those numbers are divisible by 2, right? So half of 34 is what, 17? And half of 1,000 is 500. So now I've simplified this fraction. 5.034 is the same thing as 5 and 17 500ths. All right, let's look at the last one. We're going to leave that whole number a whole number. 4 and, when you see the word, the decimal, you say the word and. 75, what? What place is the 5 in? In the hundredths. 4 and 75 100ths, I could divide 75 and 100 by 25. So 75 divided by 25 is 3, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So simplify this fraction is equal to 4 3/4. All right, so now we're going to continue on with decimals to fractions. So how do I say this number? What place is that 8 in? You guys figure it out. It's in the hundreds. So I'm going to put 8 over 100. And then can I simplify this? Yes, I can divide both of these numbers by 4. That's the greatest common factor. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 8 100ths is equivalent to 2 25ths. All right, now look at this section right here. It says if a decimal repeats, you're going to take the number of digits that repeat. So do you see that 235 is going to repeat 235, 235? So that means you take that whole number that repeats. The whole number that repeats is 235, and you place it over the same number of nines. So that decimal is equal to 235 over 999. All right, let's try another one of those. What if I have 0.33333? Well, how many numbers are repeating? One number is repeating. So I'm going to place it over 1 9. So 3 9s. Now I can simplify 3 over 9 by dividing them both by 3, and we get 1/3. So 0.333 repeating is the same as 1/3. And we started off the first slide with that fraction and we turned it into a decimal. All right, what if I have 0.4242424242? How many numbers are repeating? 2. 42. So I'm going to take those two numbers that repeat and I'm going to put it over the same amount of 9. So since two numbers repeat, I'm going to put it over 99. Now 42 and 99 are divisible by 3. So I can simplify that. So 42 divided by 3 is 14. And 99 divided by 3 is 33. So 14 over 33 is equal to 0.424242. All right, that's just a little part you have to remember about the nines for repeating decimals. All right, now we're going to move on to decimals to percents. So all you have to do to go from decimals to percents is to move your decimal 2 places to the right. In other words, we're multiplying by 100. So if we have 0.825, we can just move our decimal 2 places to the right. So our percent is 82.5%. What about 0.15? We move our decimal 2 places to the right. 0.15 is equal to 15%. All right, you might have a 3-digit number. So for example, you might have, well, let's just do this one. All right, that's not 25%. If we move our decimal to the right 2 places, 1, 2, this is actually 2.5%. What if I have 0.125? Well, I'll still move my decimal 2 places to the right, and my answer is 12.5%. If you have a non-terminating decimal, 0.1247, blah, 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 you still turn that decimal 2 places to the right, and you'd say it's about 0.12 you could say 47, or you could say about 12.5%. Those are very close, aren't they? All right, let's see what else is here. Now, to do the opposite, to go from percents to fractions, you move that decimal back 2 places or to the left. So if you don't see a decimal, it's sitting at the end. So we're going to take it, we're going to move it to the front 2 places. So this is going to be equal to 0.5. You can add a 0 in the front, it doesn't matter. And you can even add a 0 on the back, it doesn't matter. So 0.5 and 0.50 is exactly the same. All right, if I don't see a decimal, it's sitting in the back. So we're going to move our decimal place up 2 places. So this is 1.2 or 1.20. It doesn't matter. Those are the same. All right, so we're just moving that decimal 2 places, either up or back. So now, if we are going to go from percents to decimals, well, we're going to divide by 100. by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So if it's sitting in the back, we're going to come up 1, 2. Well, then that means that decimal is 0.95. And now that's all we're doing right now. We're just turning our percents to decimals. All right, and then we're going to do it again. 1, 2, 12.5% is equal to 0.125. There's our percents to decimals. All right, hopefully you were able to convert those numbers between fractions, decimals, and percents. So now I have this chart for you. I'd love for you guys to practice it on your own. I want you to go from decimals to fractions to percents and fill out what is missing. I want you to pause the video. I want you to try to do all this by yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the answers so you can check your answer. All right, so first thing we're going to do from decimals to percents, move that decimal 2 places to the right, and we get 5%. For our fraction, that 5 is in the hundreds place, so we're going to write 5 100ths. We can divide both of those numbers by 5, and simplified, we get 1 over 20. The next one, 10%, I move my decimal up 2 places or to the left, and I get 0.10. So that 10, that 0 is in the hundreds. So I can start off with 10 100ths, which simplifies to 1/10. All right, 1/8. I'm going to divide 1 by 8. And I get 2, 16. That's equal to 0.125. And when we move our decimal to the right 2 places, I get 12.5%. All right, so then for the next one, we have 3 divided by 20. So I'm going to write 3 divided by 20. So 20 won't go into 3. So 20 will go into 30 once with 10 left over. And then 20 will go into 100 5 times. So 3/20ths is equal to 0.15. And 0.15 is 15%. All right, 2.2, we move our decimal 2 places to the right, we get 20%. And then we're going to do 2/10ths, which is equal to 1/5. 25%, move our decimal up 2 places, we get 0.25. We can start off with 25 over 100, and that simplifies to 1/4. 30% is 0.3 or 0.30, which is 3/10ths. 0.3333, move our decimal 2 places to the right, and our percent will be 33.3%. And then remember what I said about how many numbers repeat. 1 number's repeating, so we put 3 over 1, 9, and then simplify by dividing both numbers by 3, which is 1/3. 7/20ths, 7 divided by 20. 20 will go into 73 times. So that's going to be 0.35, which is 35%. Then our decimal, move our decimal up 2 places, we get 0.375. 375 over 1,000, because the 5 is in the thousandths place. All right, 375 over 1,000. We can divide all of those numbers by 25. Let's see, 375 divided by 25 is 15. And 1,000 divided by 25 is what? 40. And then I can still divide 40 and 15 by 5. So that would be 3/8. All right, 2 divided by 5 is 0.4, which is 40%. I didn't need to put the decimal on a 0, but that's okay. 4/9, 1 number repeating would be 0.44444, which is 44.4%. This would be 45 100ths. I would put 45 over 100, divide them both by 5, and I get 9 20ths. 50% is 0.5, which is 1/2. 50 over 100, which is 1/2. Up here we have our fraction 55 100ths. Divide both of those by 5, and we get 11 over 20, which is 55%. This would be 0.6, which is 6/10, which simplifies to be 3/5. 5/8 is 0.625, or 625, which is 62.5%. 13 divided by 20 would be 0.65, which is 65%. 2/3 is a repeating 6, which is 66.7%. This would be 70%, which is 7/10. 75%, 75 over 100 simplifies to 3/4, which is 0.75. 80% is 0.8, which is 8/10, which equals 4/5. This would be 85%. So 85 over 100, divide both of those numbers by 5, and what do we get? 17 20ths. And then we have 87.5, which is what? 875 over 1,000. I could divide by 25, and I get 7/8. 7/8. This is 0.9 or 0.90, which is 90%. 95%, which is 95 over 100, which would be what? 19 over 20, I think. And then 1 is 100%, which is just 1 or 1 over 1. And then we have 2.5%, which 2 5/10 equals 2.5. All right, I hope you guys did well. And then I have another assignment for you, so make sure you read your Canvas page. All right, guys, have a good day. If you have any questions, let me know.